It's Liza here, creative director of allaccessida.com. I'm here with actually a longtime friend. I'm really excited to have you here with us. Joel Someillan, producer, songwriter, composer. Am I missing anything? Our guitar player, singer, piano player. Let me not forget anything.
Jack of all trades.
Jack of all trades. An incredibly talented guy. Let's talk a little bit about, well, first I want everybody to get to know a little bit about you, because I love to have the discussion about the moment that people decided that they had a passion for music and decided to actually do it for a living. So let's start around the time that you discovered you had a passion for music.
I can trace it back to one night, actually.
I like that.
I even know the date, but
That's amazing.
It's embarrassing that I know the date. But it was actually in 1983. I was 15 years old, and I saw the Police Synchronicity tour at the Miami Orange Bowl.
Wow.
And it was a long concert. It had like 4 different bands. The Fix opened up, and I remember I was 15 years old, and I made my way all the way down on the floor, all the way to almost to the front. And by the time the Police came on at night, I was already up front. And that night was so magical to me. I remember it perfectly. They opened up with...
It's the coolest thing I've ever seen.
They opened up with Synchronicity 1 and went into Synchronicity 2 and just went down their set list. And I left that concert mesmerized. And I remember thinking to myself, that's what I'm going to do for the rest of my life.
You think it was the performance aspect? Like the idea of like, man, look at what this is doing to all these people. Like
Absolutely.
how they're
Absolutely
responding to this.
Yeah, I had made my way, like I said, I made my way to the front of the crowd, and when they started performing and all those lights came on, I remember hearing this tremendous sound of screaming people behind me, and I turned around and it was 50,000 people at the Orange Bowl. Everybody's screaming, and Sting up there and Andy Summers and Stuart Copeland playing this music, and I was just in absolute awe. It just affected me so much.
That's
October 28th. 1983.
That's so great.
Affected me so
what
much.
a great year too. Okay, so what changed? What changed in your behavior? What changed from then on?
Yeah.
This was the Joel 2.0 after, or the era posting. I'll call it Joe PS. What happened after that?
What happened after that was I just went out and bought a lot of books about music and how to play my instrument.
You got serious.
I just got really, really serious. I got really serious, and I started looking into the business and what to do. We're talking the 80s, so the business was very different than it is now.
So if you were looking into the business, you were already thinking this is something I want to make a living off.
Yes.
Okay.
And obviously early on it was the performance aspect of it that I loved, being on stage and playing my music. But as I got a little older, through 18 and 19 and 20, I realized there's so much more to it, There's composition, there's songwriting, there's production, engineering, there's film, television, all these other aspects, of the music industry. And I realized I don't have to be the star on stage. I could do many things, So that made it more palatable to me, because I thought at first it was like, oh my God, I have to be the star or I'm a total failure.
Well, it's interesting because we talk about that a little bit in the first chapter, which is the very first webinar that we do, which is the find portion of F3. And in that, we're talking about how there's a difference between passion and calling. And you have both in you. So you discover this passion for something. But it's interesting how sometimes along your journey, you end up finding out that you have a calling in other things.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
And that maybe where you initially thought, I have to be the front guy or I have to be the superstar, just because it's so, it's such an ideal situation where everybody thinks, oh man, that's got to be that's the guy that gets all the chicks. And
exactly. That's where we start
and like the fame and the fortune, it can seem really appealing. You know what I'm saying, to everybody. And then you think like, oh, wait, maybe that's not necessarily what I have to do to feel fulfilled or to be really happy doing what I love.
And there are different callings. One calling of mine, as you all know, was children's music.
That's right.
You think that was in my plans?
Yeah.
Not at all.
Wait, we're gonna get to that. We have to get
Not at all.
We're gonna open that can of worms. Okay, that's a good. No, we don't have to edit. That's good stuff. It's a foreshadowing, is what it is. Okay, so we do get to that, but okay, so you end up going to Berkeley.
Yes.
You decide, okay, I'm gonna go to school for this. I'm gonna get. And this time, are you playing out? Are you gigging?
Yeah, absolutely. I was
always
gigging
to gig?
since I've been paid to gig since I was 15.
How'd you get your first gig?
High school. high school dance.
Oh, really? But did you have a band and they were like, hey,
yeah, I had a band and we played a couple of free backyard parties, and one of the backyard parties we played at it was the president of the class, of the senior class, and they were having a big senior dance for Belen High School in Miami, and they hired us. They said, we'll pay you to play. And we're like, really? And we said yes, and we realized we don't have a mixer, we don't have speakers, so we had to quickly put all this together, and we played a little show, and we got paid for it. And then our band just took off.
Was that a band you put together?
It was a band I put together, a band called Eruption. I was 15 years old.
Back then, that must have been so scandalous.
Back then, Eruption was like, woo.
So did you always feel like you wanted to be a songwriter, or was that something that came later?
No, songwriter was from the beginning.
From the beginning.
Guitar player, songwriter was from the very beginning.
But to work here, you had to do covers. So
I had to do covers.
Gotcha.
Absolutely.
So, okay, so you get to Berkeley, you go through that whole process. Mm-hmm. What's the turning point after that where you really turned pro?
So when I left Berkeley, I started working locally in Boston as an engineer and producer. Now I was no longer making $200 to play at night at a bar. Now I was getting several $1,000s to produce a song.
And you started going like, oh,
like, okay, it's getting better.
I can do
it's
this.
getting better. And then once I felt I had that part of it down, I decided to move back home.
Right.
And that's when I moved back to Miami. And I worked around Miami for a year when Emilio Estefan called me.
Gotcha.
Which is where I met you.
Which is how we met.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
And then that turned into being a songwriter.
Well, I was a songwriter already, but what happened at that point?
I mean, with the what were you foreign imported or?
Yeah. I was no longer. I know what point you're getting to.
Right.
It's a very good point. I was no longer writing for myself.
Right.
Now I was being hired and paid to write for someone else, which that I had never done. At that point I had never done. And when Emilio Estefan, hired me and we sat in a room and the first
I can relate to that.
Yeah.
I've done it before.
The first artist he dropped on me was Jose Feliciano. I mean, literally the next day I was with Jose Feliciano in a room and we were writing a song together. As I was writing it with him, I realized this song isn't for me. So I started to think of it in a different way, lyrically, melodically, stylistically. It wasn't for me.
Right.
And then every day we were writing for other artists. That was about 6 years of my life. When that ended in 2004, I was out on my own again, but I had a wealth of knowledge. At that same time, I had just had children. I was married and I had two little kids in the house.
I met them when they were little.
You did. They were tiny. I literally had a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old at home, and I received a phone call from the creator of Dora the Explorer in New York at Nickelodeon, who said, "Hey, I know your name. I've seen your credits. I've heard the songs you've written and stuff like that," because he does a lot of research, and they were developing this new character, was a spin-off of Dora the Explorer, called Go Diego Go, which is Diego's cousin. Dora's cousin Diego, and they were spinning it off, and they wanted more of a rock but slightly Latin sound. So
that's interesting.
So he reached out to several people and asked me to write a theme song.
I love that how people can get a sense, young artists can get a sense of how many different facets of the business they can work in. Because I feel like a lot of times young artists get tunnel vision and they think, well, I do this one thing, so I just got to do this one thing. And no, like you really have to explore all your strengths and capitalize on them. I always tell them the more you do, be more well-rounded. I've done a lot of things even when I got this, I tell this story a lot because when at Crescent Moon, when I had co-written with Randy the Gloria single, and Randy had asked me to sing backup with them for a little while, and then I was like, should I? I don't know, do I? Because in my young brain, I thought like, but should I sing backup? And Sebastian Chris, who's this amazing engineer, producer, songwriter, incredibly accomplished, he kind of looks at me and he's just like, what are you, stupid? Like one of the biggest artists in the world is asking you to do it. And I thought to myself, and let me tell you, he changed my whole path with that and my whole perspective, because now when I do mentor, I do work with artists, there's like not a scenario that I haven't lived through at some point in my career because I had an open mind. Tell us how you ended up working with Sun Ghost and how this became the next thing for you.
Well, it goes, it goes full circle. It goes right back to my roots. I wanted to get back to my roots. Again, 10 years writing children's music. And then after that, I got into film scoring, and I'm sitting here, day after day, night after night at the keyboard, watching films and composing music to film and doing all this really cool, weird, articulate stuff in different time signatures. And, it got to a point where I thought, okay, I love this. It's another facet of the music industry that I love. But I wanted to get back to the roots. I wanted to get back to my roots of drums, bass, and 2 guitars through loud amps, and just a good rock band. So I wasn't about to get into a rock band anymore. I'm done with that. But I thought, let me find a really good rock band.
So you went out and looked for it.
Yes, and I wanted a rock band from Miami, because as we spoke before, Miami is rich in multicultures. But that richness in multicultures also gives Miami a deficiency in the world of rock. And I ran into this one band, Sun Ghosts. And these were just 4 kids in their early 20s, and they were wild and uninhibited, raucous. They were so much energy and drive and no filter. Just guitars on 10, and they're rocking. And I was like,
rock and roll.
It was like Police Secrecy Tour over again. I was like, oh my God, look at these guys.
Well, you had an instinct.
Yeah, I had an instinct, and I could tell. The songwriting was spot on, and their energy was great. So I got to know them, and I had just formed the band really a few months prior. So they got
them fresh.
I caught them fresh, and they got lucky. I got lucky. It was a mutual thing. First of all, they had to trust me that when I told them that song is too long, they'd be like, "What do you mean? What part do you want us to cut?" We're like, "It's too long. You gotta cut it." And they were like, "What?"
It's important that you brought that up, because a lot of young artists, they want to, obviously it's the age too. Everybody that age thinks they know it all, and I've been guilty of that a million times.
Well,
I've always been proven wrong.
All of us are guilty.
Like when you tell your parents, parents were right, and
that happens a lot.
I'm glad that you're mentioning that, because they'll resist or get fussy, and I tell them, I'm like, man, your attitude is everything in this business. First of all, you have to learn to trust people that have been in it for a long time. You have to learn to trust where they come from. For me, it's a little tough too, because as I've never played the woe is me, I'm a woman card, but it can be a little tough sometimes. You're like with dudes in the studio, and then want to listen to what so maybe it's it could be slightly different dynamic. But I noticed that it's like, man, you have to let go. If you can't control every aspect, you have to let people who are good at what they do do what they do for you, and go with the flow and have an open mind.
This is one thing that early on attracted me to this band, is that as young as they are, they're mature enough to let go a little bit and say, we gotta trust somebody.
That's great.
And this guy seems to be trustworthy, meaning me. They took a liking to me. And also everything we talked about, all my track record from Berkeley and production and songwriting, even the whole time at Stefan's, the children's music, the Grammys, all that gave them also some feeling like, okay, this guy's done some things.
Well, and you're a man of your word too, I imagine. Like, hey, we're gonna do this, and it gets done.
Absolutely.
When people are seeking like mentorship or producers or managers or whatnot, it's really just about obviously there has to be chemistry, a rapport, a mutual trust. You have to have each other's back. They have to really believe in you. You wholeheartedly believe in the guys when you talk about them, and the proof also is in the pudding. Really where you believe the business is at now, and what it entails to really get a band like that off the ground. What does artist development even mean nowadays?
Well, it's incredible. It's a whole circle. You go back to let's go way back to the 1700s, 1800s. You had the minstrels and the troubadours, and they had no recordings. They had nothing. All they could do was perform. And if you got lucky, a king liked you and would hire you and would commission you to write music, and you get paid.
But now, if you put in the grind with online content, you can reach a ton of people.
Exactly. What happened was that music then, with the advent of the invention of recording, came something physical in your hand. You could hold an album, whether it be vinyl and later on CDs, and you had that in your hand, and you had to pay for it to get it. You couldn't duplicate a vinyl album, so people started purchasing, and it became a business. became a business. And then what's happened now, with in the last 10, 15 years with music becoming digital and going streaming and MP3s, we no longer have anything physical to hold in our hands. So now it's just streaming, and for the most part, it's free.
Right.
You got Spotify, you got it, and so now they're back to being minstrels and troubadours. They got to perform.
Well, yeah, and
that's what they're doing.
And pump content, which they do, because they have a very active Twitter following. Right?
Huge, yeah. They're growing like crazy on Twitter.
What's their biggest
social
media outlet? Do you know?
It's I have to check. It's either Instagram or Twitter. Last time I checked, they had 15,000 followers.
And it's a generational thing. I talk about this a lot with people about how there's such a, like, my niece is teaching me things, and I'm sure your kids are,
my kids teach me everything.
There's such a knack for knowing how to tap into attention.
Mm-hmm.
There's this entrepreneur guru, Gary Vaynerchuk, that built his business online, and he talks about how he day trades attention.
Wow.
So basically you go to where the eyeballs are. You go where the eyeballs are, and they have this ability to tap into their age group, their audience, and really draw them in and bring them to them by constantly pumping out the content. But they're good at it because they live and breathe this. And
they were born into it, and this is what they know.
Well, because you told me, Joel put him on a bus, in a van. And then, what did you say? Enough food for gas and Taco Bell.
That's it. Gas and Taco Bell.
Now, the interesting thing from a business perspective, because everybody always thinks, I ask young artists and they tell me, I'm like, what do you think you're missing the most? And nobody says, I need to develop this, I need to get better at that. They all tell me the first thing, money. And I always ask them, okay, how would you spend it? And not a single one of them knows how to do it. And the coolest thing about you telling me that story was that you said, we spent zero. No, we made zero, but we spent zero.
That's it.
And that's what
we made.
People need to start to think about this as a business. They have to think about, you don't just spend a ton of money. That already happened in the past. That didn't work. You know what I'm saying? It didn't work. $500,000 on albums. We've talked about this a bunch of times. That never came out.
Right.
Tax write-off for the label. That doesn't exist anymore.
It happened plenty. A lot of artists that thought they had it made. And then nothing happened.
Yeah, and they think it's it's as simple as, if I had the dollars, we'd make it happen. But no, but it's funny because they're doing it by grinding non-stop. I mean, these guys are playing non-stop. They're putting out content non-stop. They're living and breathing. What are they? Do they all do they live at home with their parents and sleep in each other's house? I want to know this stuff.
No, they do. They live at home with their parents.
That's awesome. They
live at home with their parents.
They're prioritizing it. It's their everything.
It's what they do 24/7. They are constantly. One of them is creating content. Another one is posting stuff. Another one is ordering T-shirts.
They're doing their own music
stickers.
Videos.
They make their own music videos. They get a friend with 2 cameras.
They're collaborating. They did a collaborative music video that you showed me, where they involved local artists, and we talk about this a lot.
Yes.
Because I tell them, I'm like, there's a key in the network that you create.
Yes.
Social media squads, as they call themselves, they build followings by being in each other's content.
And it's funny what you mentioned about that. You're talking about their song "Till the City Goes Under," which is a music video that they made, and they said it was their idea. Hey, let's film other local bands in Miami who are struggling, and let's include them. We'll even put their name on there too, so they know it's them.
Everybody promotes it. Everybody gets into it.
And if you go back 25 years, I remember bands were, it was like baseball, football teams, against each other. Like, we want to beat them. There were these shows called Battles of the Bands.
Yeah.
Right? It's who wins. These guys would never have a Battle of the Bands. Now they don't want to win. It's like, hey, we're all in this together. And in Miami especially, they wanted to help the 3 or 4 of their good friends.
It's the smartest way to be, because it doesn't help anything. It doesn't help your growth. It doesn't help the city's growth. It doesn't help the music culture's growth. And it's really amazing how much more power you gain with the community.
Well, they did it, and the video is a video for one of their songs, but there's like 4 other local bands that are in the video with them, singing their song with them, So it's a very, very powerful thing.
What do you think is the next step for Sun Ghosts? What do you think the near future holds?
We're promoting this first album like crazy.
What's that going to entail?
We're promoting online a lot, and they're playing live a lot. They keep touring. They just did a second tour now. The first tour took them all the way up to Wisconsin, where they played Summerfest up in Wisconsin. They won that contest, so they were able to go up. They won an online contest to be in that festival. So we just booked them all the way to Wisconsin and back.
See,
they played
online
every gig
contests,
in between.
like you have to look for that stuff,
Exactly.
and you have to be proactive.
And then they got inspired by that, and they entered another online contest for a new festival called Okeechobee Fest here in Florida. They won that one as well, and they promised their fans, if you vote for us and we win, we'll play that show in our underwear. And they did. They won the show and they played. They won the contest.
But
and they
look
played
at
the show
that!
in
Talk
underwear.
about giving your audience value, value and incentive. That's called engaging people for real.
Yeah, it was.
And that's what this is about.
People laughed. I said, "You better do it, man."
A lot of artists are like,
You know?
but I'm good. I just post my singing video and I'm great. People will love me. I'm like, no, how are you engaging your fans?
You have to get them involved. Get
You
them
have
involved
to
to
get
get
them
them to
involved.
vote.
Get
and get them.
creative. Talk to them. Be involved with them. Hold contests. You know.
They hold contests all the time. They give away shirts, album copies. You know, they bring their fans on stage to play with them, to sing with them. They're very engaging band.
We'll put a little graphic there for you guys to follow them. Joel Someillan here with me. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Guys, if you have questions for Joel, hit us up at All Access IDA on all social media or on the website allaccessida.com. And Joel, where can we find you? Are you kind of a private guy or a social media guy?
No, you can find me. I have a Facebook page, Someillan Productions, Facebook page. You can reach me there. You can email me, sure. You know what? Email All Access and ask them the questions, and
and then
I'll answer everything. I promise.
We'll hit up Joel. Don't worry. That way I can filter. I can send you the.
I have my website as well, Someillan.com.
Great. Just so in case you want to learn more about him, and make sure you keep checking back with us. Leave comments. Interact with each other, keep the discussion going, and let us know how if there are any rock bands out there, it'd be really cool to see how you guys are approaching your journey.
Yes.
And we can talk more about that. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Joel. Give me a rock.
Thank you so much.
You guys listen to All Access.